This is Console and Control Gaming, that is Vehement Warningwood standing at attention, and I'm Late to the Gamer. Are you guilty of skipping all the cutscenes when you get frustrated with a game, or you're just short on time? Well, I've got good news for you. I play video games, watch all the cutscenes, then explain the story back to you so you can skip all the cutscenes. Today I'll be explaining Final Fantasy XIV's Patch 7.1, Crossroads. I'll break down the three main story arcs of the post-Dawntrail narrative. As usual, I'll recap the story as a first-time playthrough, meaning that the story is told ignorant of future content and storylines. Timestamps are in the description, so you can return to the video as you progress through your game. Anyway, thank you for letting me tell you the story of Final Fantasy XIV's Dawntrail 7.1 patch, Crossroads. Wow, I can't believe I did all that with only one joke.
So proud of you.
After the passing of Sphene and Zeralja, the Arcadion reopens. The promoter, Matem, cordially invites us to participate in the Ascension Arcadia. In the vein of professional wrestling, the Ascension Arcadia is an extreme fighting competition where the fighters tap into the powers of dangerous feral souls in a battle to the death in front of a live studio audience. There are three weight classes: light heavyweight, cruiserweight, and heavyweight. And to move up, all the contenders in each class must be defeated. Anything goes and sudden death is expected, so the fighters are given spare souls from the Arcadian's private repository. We refuse to wear a regulator, so Matem proposes we fight alongside the souls of 7 past champions instead. Using Electrope, Simulacra can be conjured in a manner similar to the shade of Galul Jaja during the Feat of Brotherhood. We're disgusted to know that more souls are trapped, so we agree to join the tournament only if the souls that help us win are set free. Our first opponent is Black Cat. She uses the feral soul of Cath Palog, a monster in a Curl family. No kitten, she scratched and clawed, but it was a total catastrophe for her.
Oh no.
I'm so sorry. After defeating Black Cat, Matem explains that the championship has been around for a long time before the dimensional merge. It began with the Simulacra fighting each other. Then with the invention of the regulator, living combatants became the norm. Zeralja is the one that actually suggested using feral souls, leading to the current status quo. But when the king waged war, the Arcadian was shut down and all the feral souls were reserved for the army. Now revived, Black Cat approaches and, impressed with our fight, asks if she can shadow us. We're reluctant at first, but we allow it. Our next opponent is Honeybee Lovely. She uses the soul of a venomous bee to poison and charm her opponents. The arena was abuzz when she called me a wannabe fighter. We told her to put her honey where her mouth is, and minutes later she felt the sting of defeat.
I will literally boo you.
After the fight, Black Cat, whose real name is Yana, invites us to the gym. But fans swarm us as we exit the arena. The Alexandrians can't believe we go into these death battles with survival mode turned on. While we're praised, one fan taunts Black Cat for being seen with us and breaking kayfabe. They call her the Timu Wicked Thunder, a lesser version of her sister. Feeling overwhelmed, Yana runs away and we follow after. Yana takes us to the gym where we meet her younger sister, Nayuni. Their parents were Turali and they didn't use regulators. And then one day they just didn't return from a hunt. Not connected to the network, no one knows if they died or just didn't return. Ever since, their eldest sister, Eutrope, insisted they all wear regulators. Eutrope quickly rose to the Ascension Arcadia Heavyweight Championship, using the feral soul of Ixion and wielding Electrope as Wicked Thunder. But one day, she disappeared without a trace as well. Yana explains the risk and the rewards to competing in the Arcadian. Heavy and repetitive use of feral souls wear the body down quickly, but in exchange for fame and fortune, combatants that reach the age of 20 are immortalized in the Ascension Hall of Fame. They are then moved to the luxury residences on Everkeep's upper level, where they can live out the rest of their lives in comfort. Back in the Arcadian, Matem introduces our next opponent, the reigning light heavyweight champion, Brute Bomber. He uses the soul of the Bomb King, and we refuse.
No.
In with the bet.
Stop it.
Time's ticking.
No one likes puns.
Look, I just read whatever the writer writes.
Well, it looks like they wrote you bombing.
I see what you did there. After taking out Brute, our coronation begins, but the sore loser demands a rematch. He goes on the attack, but he's suddenly struck down by a bolt of lightning. Wicked Thunder has returned, and she challenges us to a fight for our soul. The Arcadian's president approves to an immediate exhibition match, and the crowd goes wild. But the former heavyweight champ isn't as strong as she once was, so things don't go her way. After the match, we go back to the gym to meet with Yana and Naoni. Eutrope enters shortly after to check on her sisters and is annoyed to see us. She begs begs Yana to quit fighting and reveals that the feral souls cause psychonecrosis, an irreversible disease where your soul degrades. The champions aren't immortalized. All the glory promised is just incentive to keep the business going. Combatants over 20 years are usually suffering from psychonecrosis. They're taken to a secret facility where their regulators are removed and they're confined until they die. Disconnected when they pass, everyone remembers them. No combatants in the modern Ascension Arcadia have ever gone to living memory. When Eutrope first began to feel sick, she searched for the location of the immortalized, hoping they may know of a medicine or treatments to counter her illness. But instead, as she searched the president's office, she found the truth. The only cure to psychonecrosis is absorbing an exceedingly strong soul, like ours. Metem enters the gym and Eutrope escapes out the back. He admits that he overheard everything and had no idea that the fighters were being shuffled off to die. Yana wants to go public with the information, but Metem warns that the president would blackbag and deport him, us, and all the fighters to keep the secret. He proposes an alternative. We become the heavyweight champion. As champ, we'd have full access to the Arcadian Soul Repository. We can release all of the former champions and the feral souls alike and put an end to the Ascension Arcadia. We just have to wait for the Cruiserweight Championship to begin. Shortly after arriving back in Tural, Malalja requests our help in Mamuk. A wounded Elysian traveler was found in a sky-deep cenote. She tells us that while unconscious, the man rambled about unfamiliar places. Because Elysian are foreign to Tural, she thought that we may be able to figure out where the traveler came from or how they got there. We're introduced to the traveler, but he's unable to remember his own name. He does know that he's Elven in his world, not Elysian. When we mention that we're in Mamuk, the traveler becomes defensive, believing he must be a prisoner, which confuses everyone. Malalja assures him that's not the case though. We're interrupted because the shade of Galul Jaja has suddenly appeared in the forest of Yaktael. Bakul Jaja went to engage him, but he needs help, and we arrive just in time to find Bakul Jaja brought to a knee. We intervene, but then an elven girl joins the fight alongside the shade. She attacks with a powerful dropkick, but the traveler comes to our rescue and absorbs the blow. The girl refers to us as Taurus, a word that the traveler immediately recognizes and is offended by. She introduces herself as Prish, and she's surprised that we can speak. Her name makes the traveler pause, leaving him wide open to attack. As Prish celebrates, for a brief moment, we see things through her eyes. To her, we're talking monsters. A red beacon of light manifests behind her, and the shade of Galul Jaja tells her that it's time to retreat. She agrees, calling the shade Omia, before touching the beacon and disappearing instantly. The beacon remains open, so Bakul Jaja follows to prevent the pair from returning. While we contemplate going through ourselves, the traveler confides in us that he vaguely remembers fighting alongside Prish, and he knows that Omia is an elven woman. We touch the beacon and warp to an unknown world where the architecture floats haphazardly in space. Off in the distance stands an enormous tower. We're confronted by several powerful beings as we fight towards it. First Prish, then the dragon, Fafnir the Forgotten, a team of 5 archangels, and finally the Shadow Lord, a being fueled by rage and hatred. Upon defeating the Shadow Lord, the world glitches around us in a familiar pattern before completely breaking down. Suddenly, we're standing at the gates of the city, and the massive tower is just walking distance away. The city almost feels normal. Some adventurers populate the quiet street, but human-shaped black shades appear frozen in time as they were going about their daily life. Bakul Jaja arrived ahead of us and found Prish unconscious. She wakes and finally sees us for who we are. She remembers protecting her friend Omia from Taurus. Whomever summoned the shade also cast illusion magic on her and told her to protect her friend. From her description, the mage is a Bunawa, which makes sense. Only a gifted Bunawa could use the incantation magic required to create a Galul Jaja shade. Prish tells us that we're in Juno, but it's a lot emptier than she remembers. We talk to the locals to gather information, and an adventurer recognizes the Mamulja race, but they're all from a place called Aradija. He also says that he's worried that Galul Jaja may have launched an attack on a place called At Argan. None of it makes any sense to us. Another adventurer tells us that Juno was built on a massive bridge that connects 2 continents. The city is massive inside the walls. Unfortunately, all the doors to the inner city are locked. We report what we learned to our friends, and Prish tells us that she also thought Mamulja was from Aradija. Also, the massive bridge that we heard about is destroyed, and its debris is floating in midair. Things make even less sense now. The traveler arrives and is happy to see Prish in good health, but she still doesn't recognize him. He's a little hurt to hear that, but he still doesn't even remember his own name to jog her memory. He also doesn't recognize Juno, but he says it feels familiar to him. Bakul Jaja calls the man Alzal, which translates to adventurer in the Mamulja language. Surilja and the shade of Galul Jaja warp in before us, and Prish instantly recognizes the Bunawa. He welcomes us to the Grand Duchy of Juno, the city he's created based on the memories of another world. Surilja recounts Zeralja's failed attempt to kill him after the Rite of Secession. He climbed out of the chasm in the Golden City and found the gate to Alexandria still open. Dragging himself through the doorway, he found himself in a dark expanse that felt outside of time, and there he saw Vana'diel. To show his new power, Surilja attacks a local, revealing them to be nothing more than a block of electrope. Everything here is an illusion crafted with his magic and electrope. Combining the ceremonial tools used in the Feat of Brotherhood with electrope allows his illusions to last indefinitely. This world between worlds he found, Crossroads, title drop, roll credits, is filled with structures made of electrope, giving him an endless supply to expand his illusion. Even Prish and Alzal are shades given form through memory-infused electrope powered by magic. Surilja can do or create anything he sees in the memories of the souls. He first manifested a stronger, obedient Galul Jaja with the intention of using the shade to lead an army against Tural, filled with the most powerful beings in Vana'diel's history. Feeling invulnerable, he dares us to stop him before vanishing. We go back to Mamuk to update Malalja. Afterwards, Alzal and Malalja discuss their contrasting world histories. In Vana'diel, the Mamuja were peaceful until a tyrant became ruler and started a war. While in Tural, a powerful two-headed Mamuja rose to power and started a war. The adventurer Shade and Juno somehow also knew of Galul Jaja as if he were part of Vana'diel's history. We take Prish and Alzal back to Tuliolao to get some food, while Bakul Jaja reports to the Landsguard. Alzal remembers more about Prish than she does of him. Prish gives us a timeline of her world's history, although there's a caveat. Our new friends share a lot of similarities with the Endless. Prish is a collection of memories from a specific point in her history, so her perception of time is based on the day that she remembers last. For her, 20 years have passed since the start of the Crystal War, but in reality, we can't predict how long ago that was. For all we know, she could have died 50 years ago. She asked us about our adventures, and I swear, for what it feels like the first time since we started our journey, someone finally properly acknowledged our insane list of feats. We've united nations, saved the world, saved some other guy's world, flew to the edge of the universe and back, and not by ship. We flew and punched like at least 4 gods in the mouth. I lose count. You goddamn right, we're a f***ing living legend. Bakul Jaja catches up to us to tell us that he's going back to Juno. Rumors of the beacon in Yaktael is drawing treasure hunters, so he's going to deter any Turali that wander in. We follow him into Juno and find Turali already inside. One explorer tells us that he found a unique stone, but a thief stole it and ran south. While he's curious about the stone's value, he heeds our warning and leaves the city. We track down the thief with a freshly stolen block of electro. Bakul Jaja is unable to confiscate the stone, so we're forced to buy it in an auction. As Alzal approaches the electrope, he senses the Shadow Lord emanating from the stone. This was the core of the shade that we fought earlier. The stone triggers memories in Alzal. The Shadow Lord started the Crystal War, and Alzal's party defeated it. Prish quietly reveals that she knew a member of that party, but never heard any mention of Alzal. We go back to Tuliolao and leave the electrope with the Landsguard for safekeeping. For now, we just have to wait for Surilja to make his next move. In the meantime, Prish and Alzal decide to travel to Tural while we try to get some much-deserved rest. Unknown to us, back in Surilja's Vana'diel, we see that he's expanded his illusion. The mage rationalizes that while the Shadow Lord was impressive, he's only powerful in contrast to others within a short period of Vana'diel's history. There are other beings hiding in the timeline that are stronger, malevolent, and primordial. And as Surilja dives deeper, he commits to finding them all. With time on our hands, we grab a bite to eat in Tuliolao and realize how disconnected we've been with the people. We overhear 2 men speaking, and although they appear close in age, they're actually father and son. The son struggles to reintegrate because he lacks basic skills like starting a fire. Wuk Lamat overhears the men and empathizes with the son. Since we last saw her, Lamat has been trying to improve the societal issues plaguing the people repatriating to Tuliolao. She invites the man to a support group to assist with readjusting to life outside the dome, where he can learn the skills he needs. He leaves the group optimistic, and Wuk Lamat joins us for lunch. After our meal, she invites us to the palace to discuss an important matter with her and Kona. To our surprise, in the throne room awaits Alizé, Alphino, Kryl, and Grahatia. They were summoned by Kona to educate him on Hanish culture to strengthen the alliance with Radz-at-Han. Istola is researching cross-rift travel and living memory. Thancred and Urianger are currently touring Tural, and Estinian is probably spending too much money howling at the moon or crashing out somewhere. Kona joins us and immediately gets down to business. A state funeral will be held at Solution 9 in memory of Queen Sphene, and we've been invited to attend. It seems incredulous to us that a nation that didn't even remember the dead would be hosting a funeral, but Kona explains that Oblivion found old Alexandrian records detailing funeral ceremonies before the invent of regulators. Although conflicted about going to the funeral of the person we killed, especially Wuk Lamat, we want to show the Alexandrian solidarity. We're greeted by Shale and Galulja when we arrive in the back room. Galulja tells us that Shale has been teaching him about the inner workings of Everkeep's systems to make him a more effective ruler when he's older. But the funeral will begin soon, so we leave for Praxis Park to get flowers for the ceremony. At Praxis, Queen Sphene's former aide, Gosan, meets us. While Galulja trains to be ruler, Gosan handles the affairs of the state. He directs us to the flowers and a regulator for the ceremony. He tells us that the regulators are not a requirement. In the past, Alexandrians wore a black token of mourning when attending funerals, so he had some of the regulators painted black so the citizens could wear them for the ceremony. There's not enough for everyone, but they're working on it. The residents of Solution 9 converge at Praxis Park and the ceremony begins. Gosan gives a beautiful eulogy commemorating Sphene's kindness and love for her people. He promises that even through their sadness, they will always remember their queen. The Alexandrians have not been coping well. They struggle with cognitive dissonance. They wish they could forget as they always have. For a sense of normalcy, they give themselves false hope that the queen is in the cloud, unwittingly entering the first stage of grief. Even Galulja wonders if not remembering his father or the queen would be better. Wuk Lamat thinks he needs closure, so she asks if he found any new information on his mother. Although he can now access Everkeep's records, he and Shell haven't found anything. Even if his mother died and was sent to the cloud, there would still be information on her. But the only two Mamulja ever recorded are King Zoralja and Galulja. We offer to help the boy and start looking for answers in the outskirts. One person recalls that Zoralja slayed a Tural Vidral not long before the dome appeared. Another recalls an incident that required the Lance Guard and a female Mamulja was among their rank. And the last person suggests we head north of Everkeep to the settlement in Ueyawada. Zoralja had the loyalty of their chief, Kanaloka. With the information the others gathered, we hypothesize a timeline. 30 years ago, right before the dome appeared, Zoralja slayed a Tural Vidral with the help of a small regiment of Lance Guard. Among them, a female Mamulja. In doing so, Zoralja cultivated a relationship with the settlement in Ueyawada. Then the dome came down, trapping some of the Lance Guard. 20 years ago, the king transferred scientists from Origenics to a research facility outside of Everkeep to develop a new weapon. Requiring secrecy, Zoralja would have posted his most loyal people at the facility. And finally, nearly 10 years ago, he suddenly stopped making regular visits to the settlement. Shale assumes production of any supplies needed for the research facility would have been made at Everkeep. Searching through the logs, she finds that an abnormally large amount of deliveries were made to Ueyawada that ended about 10 years ago. With all signs pointing north, we head to the lake to hop on a hover cargo to the facility. The path to the Ueyawada field station is littered with Levin beasts. Inside roam test subjects and experiments gone wrong. Research notes we find detail the experiments. Zoralja was the only person in Alexandria's history that considered the risk and was still unethical enough to actually try infusing Pharaoh's souls. They learned that beast souls, even with the memories removed, eventually cause psychological instability. Primal instincts can never be removed. Determining how many times Pharaoh's souls could be used before mutation occurred was complicated. They found it to be totally dependent on the potency of the soul. For example, test subject Atticus mutated and lost all rational thought after only using a single soul. The goal of this research was to eventually use the soul of the extremely powerful Tural Vidral, but it didn't seem likely, so they tried the opposite. Kanaloka's assistant theorized erasing the beast memories, then infusing the beast with a normal soul, and they also volunteered to be the first test subject, but no other information about them remains. When we reach the facility's soul center, Overseer Kanaloka attacks us. His appearance is unusual, far larger than any normal person. He fights with the soul storage unit strapped to his back and attacks with the souls within. He demands our souls for Zoralja, completely oblivious to his death. When we defeat him, he laments that he could not tame the beast and alludes that something's wrong with the seal. Behind this room, the path leads back outside. In the distance, we see an enormous spherical vortex of fire, earth, and wind. Something sparkles within, and as we approach, the magic suddenly dissipates, revealing the Tural Vidral has been sealed in this magic the entire time. Knowing the destruction it could cause, we defeat Lunipyati. Before it takes its last breath, we receive a vision of the past. Kanaloka and Zoralja stand on a hillside before the sealed Tural Vidral. The scientist proposes using his assistant's idea of infusing a normal soul into the Tural Vidral. Zoralja approves and Kanaloka leaves. Then a Mamulja woman named Tashalja approaches. The king tasks her with assisting Kanaloka and reporting all his movements. She doesn't initially answer, causing Zoralja to ask if there's something stopping her from accepting her mission. She explains that she agrees with everything he does, but requests a completion bonus if Kanaloka's research proves useful. Zoralja, with his back turned, asks her what she desires most, unaware by her stare that she wants him. The king explains that he is a selfish person and he will sacrifice anything to obtain his own heart's desire, but what he wants can't be found under the dome, so nothing within it has any value to him. He tells her that if her work is satisfactory, she can have anything within the dome. We tell the team that we now absolutely know Tashalja existed, and we head back to the research station for clues to her whereabouts. We find a test subject's journal. They volunteered to have their soul moved to a beast and was able to write only a few days after the soul transfer, but the side effects came quickly and fiercely. Their writings devolved as their baser instincts consumed their every thought, reducing them to impulsively eat to live like an animal. A mangled body hides the journal of a researcher stationed in Uweyawada to teach the settlers how to use electro. Notably, only Kanaloka and Tashalja showed any aptitude, but they were exceptional. We finally locate a key to the observatory and some cabinets behind the receptionist's desk. The observatory is still operational, running off a generator. This is where the seal on the Tural Vidral was maintained. It's a modified seal, similar to the one that contained Valigarmanda. The computers indicate that the seal fell due to an unexpected anomaly. Galulja accesses the system and downloads all the encrypted files containing his mother's name. We bring the files to Shale, but she needs time to decrypt everything. The twins suggest we check in on the citizens after the funeral, but Geode stops us to confirm that morale is low. Turali, old enough to remember life before regulators, are afraid to leave Everkeep, and the ones that do want to leave simply don't have the skills needed to survive on the road. They're at a crossroads. Geode believes that reviving the railroad would help by removing the risk while migrating. We go to Shishi Nuizi Springs to ask the railroad's lunatic chief engineer how we can help. Kona and Erenvel arrive soon after with the same goal. Erenvel has been promoted and sports a new look for his new job as an independent contractor. The engineer advises us to check in with the nomadic Hitsaro Amewa Hetsoan and come up with a plan that doesn't disturb the Ronique herd. They move with the herd, and the train could scare off the Ronique, forcing the Hitsaro to make an untimely move. Being Hitsaro himself, but never experiencing the culture, Kona uses this opportunity to get in touch with his roots. The Ronique are considered guides that lead the Hitsaro people to fertile lands. On occasion, the herd may split in two, and likewise, they part with half of their people. Kona surmises that he may have been lost during one of those splits. Kona is tasked with taking the Ronique to graze, but instead, he lets it lead him. While it strayed further away than expected, it eventually brought him back to where he needed to be. Kona has an epiphany. His strict mindset would have just limited the Ronique to man-made paths. He was able to see and experience more of the land and achieve the same result. Now he understands that his inability to perceive the processes of other people's decision does not make them inherently incorrect. With newfound respect for the Hitsaro culture, Kona declares that rebuilding the railroad must be done without affecting the Ronique in any way, no altering their migratory patterns or capturing any that wander too close to the tracks. Erenvel and Wuk Lamat report that they found the Ronique's once favorite grazing area nearly empty except for the half-eaten raptor, indicating that there's a large predator nearby. By the behavior, the village chief believes that we're looking for a Turuhetso, or a Ronique Reaver, but it isn't native to this area. Until we're interrupted by the deafening roar of a Turuhetso inbound. The Ronique are paralyzed with fear. We protect them from smaller predators and guide them to safety before the Reaver arrives. The Turuhetso appears and charges at a straggling Ronique, but Kona uses his body as a shield to protect it. We charge to Kona's side with Wuk Lamat and attack, but everything just bounces off the beast's crystallized scales. We stall long enough to determine the Turuhetso's weakness and cripple its legs to ensnare it. Kona breaks the scales with a well-placed sniper round. Without the armor, we quickly take down the Ronique Reaver. Erenvel observes that the crystals coating the scales emit a unique ether. They could be repurposed to emit a weak ether pulse, emulating the Ronique's greatest predator. The Het'Saro trader recalls the last time he saw a Reaver, over 20 years ago, when it destroyed a camp in Loazini Heta. Kona recognizes that he was found there. The man recounts that the Reaver appeared, and while nearly everyone scattered, a brave couple distracted it. While they drew it away, they begged anyone listening to save their son. The trader, in fear for his life, ran and never looked back. Many people from the camp were never seen again, and the survivors moved on with the Ronique. The trader doesn't know what happened to the child, but assumes that they died in the wilderness. Kona wonders aloud if maybe that child was found by the Pelepelu, and then eventually the Dawnservant. Everyone stares dumbfounded as they realize Kona was that child. He regrets having spent too much time resenting his parents when they were only trying to protect him. We take the crystals back to Shaloni Station and create a gentle etheric whistle that calmly deters Ronique. The test is flawless, and the railroad is back in operation. We plan on returning to Everkeep with Wuk Lamat, and Erenvel asks to join us. We inform him of our trip north and finding information about Galulja's mother. After seeing off Kekiwa and living memory, Erenvel has changed. He openly admits Galulja's feelings mirrored his own. Saying this leaves us slack-jawed, but when Lamat points out his mini Kekiwa pennant, the Erenvel we remember appears, and he awkwardly denies any sentimentality. Back in Solution 9, we catch everyone up again. But Y'shtola has bad timing and arrives now, so we need to do it again. She's been researching the Skydeep cenote this entire time and is now ready to move on to living memory. She only came to recruit an expert on Electrope to escort her. She warns us though, when she returns, she wants to take a look at our key. And that is not a euphemism, but I kinda wish it was. What?
All right, yeah, she's kind of hot.
Shell presents the decrypted audio files to Shalja. Galulja hears his mother's voice for the first time that he can remember. She confirms our theories. Shalja was a surgeon in the Lance Guard, dispatched to Yasalani to eliminate a Tural Vidral. She officially stayed in the area to document the location of medicinal herbs in the region. In reality, she stayed around for the opportunity to stand out to Zoralja. At home, she secretly watched him train, admired him as a leader, loved him from afar, and obsessed over him incessantly. She didn't want to return to Tuliolao, where she'd have to face the reality of being invisible to him. She understood that Zoralja would never look at her the way that she looks at him. But when the dome appeared, she was one of a small group of Landsguard and the only female Mamulja among them. She finally had the perfect opportunity to be noticed by him. As the experiment progressed, her desire to claim Zoralja for herself was her motivation. Then Galulja was born, and she still didn't get her wish. She thought that if Zoralja only held his son, she'd finally get what she always wanted, but it could never happen. Zoralja, leaning closer to sociopath on the socio to psycho scale, was unable to feel sympathy for, be empathetic to, or love anyone over himself. He called Galulja a thing and told Shalja to get it away from him. She still held on hope that they could be a family, but the research stagnated. Kanaloka blamed the lack of progress on Shalja for being distracted by parenthood. In the last recording before the incident, she hid her child before work to avoid another confrontation. Galulja was found in the downdrifts nearly 10 years ago, meaning someone moved him there via hover cargo and then left him. We still don't know what exactly happened at the facility, and we haven't found any concrete evidence that Shalja is dead, only missing. Galulja can't tell if he's happier now, but he feels it's better to know the truth. He thanks everyone for helping him piece together his history, and with the mystery partially solved, Y'shtola and Shell leave for living memory. Before we can leave ourselves, Geode stops us with some interesting news. Although the railroad is restored and word has gotten around Everkeep, no one is boarding to Tuliolao. In fact, it's the opposite. Out in Solution 9, the Alexandrians look worse off than before as they mourn a death in the Thunder Yards. The departed lost all their spare souls in Zoralja's assault, and today they were struck by lightning. Paranoia washes over the people. They question whether the regulators even work after losing the ability to erase memories of the departed. Some strictly believe they're supposed to die peacefully in the care of an usher the way it's always been. Others realize that more citizens could have died violently than from old age, and no one could have been the wiser. The existential dread spreads like wildfire. Suddenly, the crowd goes silent as they can't believe their eyes. Queen's Fiend has returned. She speaks as though nothing has happened. She singles out a citizen by name and showers them in her fairy tale princess aura. We're too shocked to formulate words. Wuk Lamat is appalled and offended. Fiend is supposed to be gone forever. Lamat's voice wavers from the shock as she asks Osan what is going on. He smiles and simply says the queen is visiting her people as she normally does. Wuk Lamat begins to lose her temper. She asks how could he say that when he officiated Fiend's funeral? We laid flowers, we mourned. He turns and stares at the flowers as though he's just seen them for the first time. The lights on his regulator begin flickering and produces an odd sound. When it stops, Gosan looks at us like we're crazy. That funeral was for the people that lost their lives in Zoralja's attack, he says. The Alexandrians beg Sphene to return the system to the way it was so they can forget the dead, but she admits that she can't, but proposes another solution for her citizens. They all become endless. Sphene created a new system to transplant memories directly into an ethereal vessel that is not reliant on soul cells. They'll be able to live however they please for as long as they'd like. She explains that for the time being, their stores of ether are too low to turn everyone endless. The black Neo regulators received at the funeral are some of the 5,000 new models ready for distribution. When the rest are given out, those people will be called on to become endless. Gating the promise of eternal life behind a lottery does little to relieve the Alexandrians. Wuk Lamat, enraged, confronts Sphene in front of everyone. She knows that this is not the real Sphene. She would never pit her people against each other or be satisfied with only saving some of them. Lamat demands the imposter to reveal themselves, but Sphene, surrounded by her people, cordially bows to Wuk Lamat and introduces herself as the Queen of Reason before curling her lips into a shit-eating grin. The Alexandrians all suddenly stop and stare at us. We hear their neo-regulators activate all at once. Realizing we're helpless to do anything, we decide to retreat to the back room. As Wuk Lamat walks away, the crowd behaves as if what just happened didn't just happen. They laugh and talk to Sphene, but when we turn our back, Sphene looks our way and smiles devilishly. Back with our allies, we rationalize the difficulty of proving that Sphene is a fraud. Whoever is pretending to be her has the cunning to imitate her, the knowledge to alter regulators, and the capability to alter memory in real time. We've been forced to our back foot and need to tread lightly until we can identify the real threat. Meanwhile, in living memory, through the eyes of an unknown person regaining and losing their consciousness, we see Shell and Ishtola in the distance. As the woman struggles to get to her feet, she calls out for her people and wonders aloud if they're safe. She doesn't understand how she got there. Ishtola rushes to the woman, but she faints. We're left with the following verse. In fear of death, the people turn. The Queen reborn, their fates to learn. Crossroads. So yeah, you made it to the end of the video, and thank you for watching. There should be something popping up right about now that'll take you to the next part of Final Fantasy XIV Story Explained, or maybe even a different story explained. But before you click on a video, please hit that like button. I'm Late to the Gamer, and thank you for letting me tell you a story.